Today's Moneyline. Reporting tonight from New York, Stuart Varney.
Good evening and welcome to Moneyline. Willow is off tonight. Now, just a few hours ago, the Supreme Court made a dramatic decision in what's already been one of the most extraordinary election fights in American history. The High Court agreed to hear one of George W. Bush's appeals challenging the hand recounts in Florida. The Supreme Court will hear our oral arguments 1 week from today. Let's go right to Wolf Blitzer with the very latest on the Supreme Court decision. Wolf.
Stuart, it could be a major break for the Bush campaign. The U.S. Supreme Court agreeing this afternoon to hear an appeal filed by the Bush campaign to overturn that decision by Florida Supreme Court that allowed manual recounts to be included in Florida's official vote total. The Supreme Court will hear the case next Friday, 1 week from today. That's December 1st, 5 days after the deadline set by the Florida Supreme Court to the counties to submit the final results of those hand recounts. Lawyers for the Bush campaign must file a brief with the court by Tuesday. That would be November 28th, next Tuesday. The Bush campaign petitions argue that because a manual recount is only taking place in some select counties and not all of the state's 67 counties, it might violate the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which guarantees that each citizen's vote be counted equally. The Gore campaign strenuously denied that in their brief filed before the Supreme Court. Stuart?
Wolf, how did the two camps react to this Supreme Court decision?
Not surprisingly, the Bush campaign was very pleased. In a statement, they said, "We always believed our case is sound, and we're heartened to hear that they will hear it," referring to the Supreme Court. The Gore campaign putting the best face forward on what is clearly a disappointment. David Boies, an attorney for the Gore campaign, saying that hopefully, in his words, the Supreme Court decision, whatever that decision will be the last step in resolving this entire election controversy. Stuart?
All right, thanks very much, Wolf. We're going to check in with you for more on today's developments in just a few minutes. Thank you. Now, hours before the High Court's decision, there was a powerhouse tech stock rally on Wall Street. The Nasdaq rocketed more than 5% in just a half day of trading. The Nasdaq jumped 149 points. It closed at 29.04, snapping a 5-session losing streak. More modest action for the Dow, which rose just under 71 points. Gains in the 4 blue-chip tech stocks accounted for more than half of that rally. The S&P 500 added 19 points. That's a jump of nearly 1.5%. Today's Nasdaq rally ranks in the top 20 best days ever for that index. Welcome relief for an index pounded for much of the year. Peter Viles reports.
A day off did wonders for investors who kicked off the holiday shopping season in style, snapping up some of the same beaten-down technology stocks they wouldn't touch on Wednesday.
I think it's bargain hunters looking at valuations, specifically companies with earnings valuations, and trying to sift through the rubble, as you may, to pick up some bargains.
This was a widespread rally. By sector, the biggest winners were semiconductor equipment stocks, up 9%. Followed by software, communications equipment stocks, electronics retailers, and oil and gas drillers. Name a big tech stock, and it was probably higher. Oracle, Cisco, Intel, WorldCom, and Sun Microsystems led the NASDAQ. Internet stocks even showed some life, led by Commerce One, Ariba, Yahoo, and eBay. The question for investors was how to gauge the significance of the rally.
Sometimes the day after Thanksgiving turns out to be a turning point. It takes a little while to know whether that's true or not. So the fact that we're having a good day today, I think, confirms the seasonal pattern and is perhaps the turn from the test of the October lows.
Still, there is plenty of skepticism in the market.
The overriding problem the market faces here is the deceleration of earnings, and that looks to continue. So I don't think this market is out of the woods yet, but the up moves can be pretty strong and can be pretty tempting to get a lot of investors pretty excited and back into this market when I think they still need to be very cautious.
For once, Florida was not a negative. Some even saw good news in the Florida Supreme Court's rejection of a Gore appeal late Thursday.
Obviously, volume was moderate, but it wasn't bad for a half a day in a holiday session. But it shows where money wanted to go. And, of course, the political news overnight favored those who are George W. fans, as is generally the case on Wall Street.
The weekend promises plenty of election news from Florida for investors to digest when markets reopen on Monday, and at least one new source of election uncertainty, that U.S. Supreme Court case, which will not be heard until next Friday.
And that is, generally speaking, a negative for stocks, isn't it? That delay.
It's more uncertainty. It certainly is a negative.
All right, Pete, thanks very much. Now, take a quick look at the other tech winners today. IBM, for example, it jumped nearly 1.5 points, and Hewlett-Packard was up nearly 2. Microsoft rose almost 1 3/4. Box makers like Dell and Compaq also registered solid gains. And look at Juniper Networks, which makes internet routers. It surged 12 3/4. Fiber optic names, JDS Uniphase and Ciena, they're higher as well. Wireless chip maker Broadcom up 6 points. And wireless technology company Qualcomm gained more than 5.5 points on the day. Now, the buying binge today, of course, was not confined to Wall Street. It played out in malls and department stores all across the nation. But the traditional kickoff of the holiday shopping season did not go off without at least one hitch. Shoppers who stayed home and logged on to Amazon.com at midday Eastern Time found themselves staring at an apology rather than a working site. Amazon suffered an outage that lasted about a half hour. More on that later. Shoppers who did venture out were wise to get there early, like these Walmart shoppers. Walmart, one of many stores to open their doors early to handle the rush. Susan Lasovich joins us now from an American shopping mecca, Macy's in New York's Herald Square. Linda.
Hello, Stuart. Well, the flagship Macy's behind me opened its doors at 7 this morning, and those doors will remain open until 10 this evening. Typical of many retailers eager to accommodate consumers on the day after Thanksgiving, the official start of the holiday season.
Long lines in Atlanta, gridlock in suburban Chicago, and survival of the fittest in Denver. These are the kinds of scenes that make shoppers grimace and retailers grin.
Customers were a little hesitant at the beginning of the season, but it just exploded a few weeks ago, and it's really meeting our expectations and then some.
But with rising energy prices and lower stock prices, retailers aren't taking anything for granted this year. Bargains abound.
It was 30% and 15% off, and if you did it before 11, so it was worth it.
The sale prices are really good, so it's well worth coming out and seeing the stores because there's some really good bargains.
And merchandise has been marked down because of mediocre sales numbers this fall that suggest consumer confidence is waning, even in one of retail's hottest areas, electronics.
I think people are being more cautious. They're looking for really good values and deals.
With the election up in the air, it's hard to say what's going to happen. The stock market's suffering now, so we'll see what goes on. Little uneasy about it.
But many consumers say even if their outlook has changed, their holiday spending will not.
Why do you feel so good about spending?
Well, I don't know, there's a Christmas spirit. That's part of it.
And shoppers will have more time to get into the spirit. This year, there are 2 extra shopping days in the holiday season between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
And if consumers stick to recent patterns, they'll do much of their spending closer to the end of the holiday season. In fact, the Saturday before Christmas is now often the busiest shopping day of the year, and a time when retailers feel even more pressure to lower prices in order to encourage sales. Stuart.
Susan, it looks busy down there. It looks like people are actively buying, but underneath it all, what really is the sentiment?
The sentiment today was surprisingly good, and I say surprising because the sales this fall have been mediocre, and we have seen a number of top-notch retailers warning about profits ahead. A lot of consumers told me today they are shopping, but they're looking very carefully at prices, and so even if the volume is good, the profit margins may be a little thinner because retailers may feel a little more pressure to price more aggressively this season.
Susan Lasovich in the heart of Macy's. Thanks very much, Susan.
Sure.
Consumers may have packed retail stores today, but investors were not packing into retail stocks. That sector was left out of today's market rally. Out of these big-name retail stocks, just 2, The Gap and Federated, ended the day higher, and not by much, as you can see. Walmart, Target, Sears, all ended in the red. All 5 stocks have struggled in what's been a challenging year for retailers. Each is down 27% or more from their 52-week high. Still to come on Moneyline, the U.S. Supreme Court will weigh in on the ballot saga in Florida. We'll check out how the High Court may change the political equation. As the election drags on, Hollywood is hoping America will escape to the movies. We'll look at prospects for the silver screen this holiday season. Plus, later in the program, it's prime season for a toy store on the rebound. Can Toys R Us keep up the pace? We'll have the bottom line on that.
From CNN's New York headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
best things in life just come naturally. Like natural vitamin E from ADM. Made from the healthy goodness of soybeans, you'll find it in many leading brands of dietary supplements. Studies have shown that natural vitamin E is significantly more effective than synthetic brands, helping you stay healthy in your golden years by maintaining your body's own disease-fighting abilities, while helping you maintain mental sharpness. After all, you're only as old as you feel. And think, it's your health. It's your life. Do what's right for you. Natural vitamin E from ADM. Do what comes naturally.
No two eyes see the same world. No two businesses are identical. And now, one company creates internet solutions unique to you.
Fujitsu. The possibilities are infinite.
Go to CNN.com any hour of the day. Click on technology, and you'll get the very latest in computers, gadgets, space, and more.
As we've been telling you, the Supreme Court has agreed to consider the Bush campaign's appeal on hand recounts in Florida. We return now to Wolf Blitzer for more on the developments of the day in the Moneyline News Digest. Wolf.
Thanks, Stuart. Today's word from the Supreme Court potentially is a major victory for the Bush campaign. The justices want Bush's attorneys to present their arguments by Tuesday. The court plans to hear oral arguments next Friday. And in Florida today, more legal maneuvering and angry protests as the recounting goes on. Hand recounts are underway in Broward and Palm Beach counties. This afternoon, Gore running mate Joseph Lieberman denounced what he called orchestrated demonstrations by Republican supporters allegedly aimed at disrupting the recount process.
This is a time to honor the rule of law, not surrender to the rule of the mob. This is a time for patience and respect, not intimidation and violence.
Lieberman says Wednesday's scuffle in Miami-Dade County was meant to intimidate election officials, and he warned against a repeat. On the same theme, 6 Democratic congressmen today wrote to the Justice Department. They want the alleged intimidation investigated. Meanwhile, Republican demonstrators gathered today outside the building where the Broward count is going on. Bush campaign workers said the protesters were volunteers, angry that the Gore campaign wanted, in the Bush team's words, to steal the election. They say the protest is noisy but isn't meant to intimidate. The recount is also continuing in Palm Beach County. CNN's Mark Potter is in West Palm Beach with the latest. Mark?
Well, Wolf, as the protesters and the spin doctors and the court activities swirl around them, the canvassing board members just kept counting away today. They started in the morning, and they'll probably go into the night. They're only counting the contested ballots, but that is quite an uphill challenge. They have at least 6,000 contested ballots to go through, and it may be more than that, they say, because there are some boxes that they haven't even opened up yet. So far, they say they have counted about 1,000 ballots, and it's like watching grass grow. It's one at a time, one ballot after the other. It's a laborious process, and they're going to have to go through it through the weekend. Officials here say that they expect that they will make that Sunday evening deadline, but it's not going to be easy. They may have to burn the midnight oil. We do not yet from them have credible numbers as to whether any of the candidates have made net gains as a result of this laborious process. Wolf, back to you.
Thank you, Mark Potter in West Palm Beach. Also today, a Leon County Circuit Court judge agreed to review arguments from the Bush campaign on reconsidering military absentee ballots from overseas. Ballots with late or illegible postmarks and other irregularities were set aside. The Bush team wants them reconsidered in 13 counties. And Republican vice presidential candidate Dick Cheney today left the hospital 2 days after he checked in with chest pains. Cheney says he's been assured by doctors that his heart condition will not be a problem if he takes office.
In terms of work, terms of the kinds of activities I can engage in professionally, there are no restrictions.
I'll have much more on the election dispute and the day's other top stories ahead on a special edition of The World Today. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Stuart?
Now, on top of all of this, Wolf, we have the Florida state legislature now getting involved. What's happening there?
Well, it's a heavily Republican-dominated legislature, the Senate and the House of Representatives in Tallahassee. The Speaker of the House says today that he's already consulted with the President of the Senate in Florida, and they're ready to take up action themselves if they don't like what happens with this hand recount. So it's a complicated mess. Looks like it's going to get a little bit messier.
Fair enough. Wolf Blitzer, thanks very much, Wolf. Now, more on the election cliffhanger. Our guest tonight thinks that the chances for a full-blown constitutional crisis have risen dramatically over the past few days. Greg Valliere, Charles Schwab Washington Research. Now he joins us here in New York. Greg, welcome back.
Great to see you, Stuart.
What exactly do you mean by a constitutional crisis?
I think within a week or two, if we start talking about the Florida state legislature trying to change the outcome, or even the U.S. Congress looking at the so-called Electoral Count Act, which would allow them to challenge the seating of Florida electors, that's a constitutional crisis, in my opinion.
And you think we are closer to that now than we were just a couple of days ago?
I think so. You could construct a scenario whereby Gore loses the recount, and then maybe the inevitable starts to sink into his campaign. But with the Supreme Court ruling that this won't be really talked about until late next week, I think we've got at least another week to go. And the closer we get, Stuart, to December 12th, which is the date the Florida legislature might start talking about the electors, the closer we get to possibly a constitutional crisis.
If we're getting closer to it, though, you've got to remember that today the NASDAQ went up 5%, the Dow was up, the dollar hasn't budged, gold hasn't budged. Traditional crisis indicators suggest there is no crisis.
Well, the stock market hasn't done well since the election, but I'll grant you today was a good day, maybe an oversold market doing well. I do think, Stuart, that the dollar could be the barometer. If we start to go into early December with no resolution, then I think this does become a full-blown crisis. We're not quite there yet.
Regardless of who wins the White House, is the legislative process incapable of enacting new, dramatic legislation for the next 4 years?
Yes, I think so. Certainly for the next 2 years. We got news yesterday that the Senate probably will be 50-50 based on a change in the state of Washington. I think there's going to be such gridlock. There's only one good story, and that is a continued surprise on the upside on the budget surplus. Fearless forecast. Within the next month, the official forecasters will find another $1 trillion. The surplus is going to grow by that much. And with this kind of gridlock, I think the surplus will grow even more.
You've got 10 seconds, but I got a box says your safe haven is Treasury bonds.
The bond market, you bet. And I think the Fed may be easing sooner rather than later. Absolutely.
Greg Valliere, always a pleasure. Thanks for being back with us tonight.
You bet.
Okay. Coming up, mayhem breaks out on the streets of Paris as France gets a chance to pick up the next generation of video games. We'll be back with that one.
Small business owners. Lots of people want lots of information some of the time, but not everyone. Some just want general news about yesterday. A few need business news about today. But energy professionals need energy news now, in real time. Introducing Williams, EnergyNewsLive.com, the only real-time energy news network. It's not news for everyone, just everyone in energy.
One energy company had the idea to change their entire fleet of global tankers to safer ones with double hulls, committing to it before anyone else and finishing 16 years ahead of the industry's deadline. Conoco, think big, move fast.
Nice solid rally on Wall Street today. There it is. The NASDAQ jumping nearly 150 points, better than 5%. It closed above 2,900. Now check out the Dow. Not quite as strong, but it still gained about 71 points at 10,470. Moneyline returns in just a moment.
She's perfect.
she has everything she needs, except $250,000 for college. Start saving today with the new 529 College Bound Fund. It gives you the power of tax-deferred growth, the power of Alliance Capital, one of the world's premier investment managers. Learn about the 529 College Bound Fund today by calling your financial advisor or visiting collegeboundfund.com. So you'll be ready when she is. After all, she'll have a lot of competition.
Now you can get 1,000 minutes of nighttime state-to-state long distance and unlimited internet access for just $30 a month. Because some things were just meant to be together. Hook up with Sprint and Earthlink at 1-800-PIN-DROP.
Tonight in the Crossfire, the latest on Election 2000 as the U.S. Supreme Court gets involved. Will we have a certified president-elect soon, or will more legal wrangling keep pushing back the outcome? Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
One decision out of AT&T sent a shudder throughout the cable equipment business today. The struggling telecom said that until year's end, it would stop purchasing certain equipment used to upgrade cable TV systems for phone service. AT&T said its broadband unit already has enough supply. Well, that news affects two companies directly, Antec and CommScope. But the rival suppliers tumbled as well today on Wall Street on fears of a demand slowdown. Here's the list. CommScope down 5 3/4, Antec lost nearly 2.5%. Scientific Atlanta down 2 1/4. Secor.com Net was down more than 2 points on the day. Other big movers today. Quaker Oats down 3 1/4. The French food maker Danone became the third company to withdraw its bid for Quaker. And that follows failed talks with Pepsi and Coke. Gemstar jumped more than 2.5. It's the publisher of TV Guide, and it's discussing possible alliances with Barnes & Noble, including promoting electronic books. And Internet Capital Group gained more than 2. The company adopted a shareholder rights plan to prevent a hostile takeover. The Internet incubator had reason for concern. Its stock has plunged 95% this year. Just look at that. In tonight's Tech Watch, we check out a big debut in the red-hot video game business. Sony began selling its PlayStation 2 machine in Europe today. It was a wild scene indeed in Paris as crowds jostled for position, people desperate to get a hold of the next-generation console. Sony introduced the machine earlier this year in Japan and also in the United States. And just ahead, we're going to check out Hollywood's hopes for the holiday season. Will the current run of new releases yield box office gold? We'll be back.
We can expect in the coming months is Director of Product Development, Paul Noon.
Nortel Networks is building the new high-performance internet, the wireless internet, with optical technology that makes it faster.
Overall, this has been an exciting
and more
year.
reliable.
But the next few months will mark the beginning of a new Gesundheit.
Come together.
In fact, with technology changing
Over me.
This is the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, these people were like family to me. Remember I met Jeannie at the company picnic?
It was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, taking the new job was a tough decision. Deciding what to do with my 401k money was another. I didn't want to mess it up. I called T. Rowe Price. You know, you told me about the mutual funds.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, well, they sent me a rollover kit, you know. Took me through it step by step.
I made it easy for you.
Yeah, piece of cake.
T. Rowe Price, helping people invest with confidence for over 60 years.
It's going to be a good job.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. You know how easy it is to take your home videos and turn them into movies? Listen to this. You get an iMac, of course. Get your digital video camera, hook it up, and start iMovie. They've got effects in there now. You can, make it real fast. Ooh. Or get slow motion, make it dramatic. You can take a piece of music, put it under your footage, and all of a sudden, people are laughing, crying. I don't know, whatever you want. I've got cheesy ideas, but you'll do something creative that'll make you want to go, ooh, let's watch that again and again and again and again.
We've been telling you how Thanksgiving ushers in a critical period for the retailers. But there's another industry that is banking on the holiday season, and that's Hollywood. The movie studios rely on this period to generate nearly 20% of annual box office revenue. Casey Wine has a sneak preview from Los Angeles on how the season is shaping up.
And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Yeah!
This may be remembered as the year the Grinch saved Christmas. The Universal film is about to break the $100 million mark at the box office and become one of the most successful Christmas-themed movies of all time. It's just in time. Theater chains are struggling, with at least 5 in bankruptcy. And Hollywood studios are trying to make up for a disappointing summer that saw weekly box office totals fall below last year's record pace for 11 consecutive weeks.
Was it the Chad?
Even with strong showings from fall films such
swimming?
as Charlie's Angels,
going?
also poised to bounce over the $100 million mark, this year's domestic box office take has been flat. Entering the Thanksgiving weekend, sales matched 1999's record pace of $6.6 billion. But that's only because average ticket prices are up about 25 cents. Actual attendance is down 3%.
I know what's going through your mind right now.
Thanks to a strong menu of holiday fare, those fortunes are changing. A pair of Disney films released Wednesday, Unbreakable and 102 Dalmatians, combined to take in $22 million in their first 2 days. And Paramount's Rugrats in Paris has performed surprisingly well as a family alternative to The Grinch.
Last year was a record Thanksgiving period. From Wednesday through Sunday, the box office generated $225.5 million. That was an all-time record. We're going to surpass that. Looking at the numbers already, we're several million dollars ahead of the pace that was set last year. So we should wind up the weekend certainly in excess of that $225 million.
It's still too early to tell whether the full year 2000 will beat 1999's record $7.5 billion box office take. But studios and theater owners now at least have a chance. Casey Wyand, CNN Financial News, Los Angeles.
Well, the movie studios could use a holiday bonanza after falling off a cliff lately. In today's action, today this is, Viacom, which runs Paramount Studios, slipped fractionally. Time Warner, parent of CNN and owner of Warner Brothers, gained $1.77. Disney edged up just a fraction. And News Corp, which owns 20th Century Fox, gained more than 1.25 points. But it's a different picture compared to the year